I'm from the Arts and Sciences BAsc at UCL, and this is my colleague Amanda. And as you probably know, we're here to talk about our new undergraduate degree programme, which is a perfect interdisciplinary course, particularly for students who are doing IB, to be able to continue studying a broad range of subjects at the university level. But before we go on to talk about the degree in a bit more depth, what I'll do is give you some history and information about UCL and our background, and then we'll delve in and go into a little bit more detail about the degree itself. So the institution was founded in 1826. At that time there were only two other universities in the UK, Oxford and Cambridge, so we don't talk about those too much, but they were our rivals at that time. But you could only attend Oxford and Cambridge back then if you were male and you were studying to be a minister of religion, so you were studying religion and theology and those sorts of subjects. And so this chap came along, Jeremy Bentham, a philosopher, and he said, actually, education should really be for all, regardless of your social standing and your values and your beliefs. And so it was upon his principles that UCL was founded. And then a few years later, it should have been sooner than it was, but a few years later, UCL then became the first institution to also admit women on the same terms as men. Following that, UCL was the first institution to offer the systemic teaching of medicine, law, and engineering. I guess you guys are starting to look at different institutions around the world and starting to consider rankings, which ones are near the top, which ones would be the best fit for you. And when it comes to the rankings, we're consistently at the top of the pile. So when it comes to the QS system, which lots of people look at, UCL are currently ranked in 5th position. If you look at other global rankings, normally you would find us in the top 10, and other UK rankings would certainly find us in the top 5. And we also became the first to reintroduce this idea of a liberal arts type course in the UK. So there were some plans and some programs that did launch back in the 60s and 70s, I think, liberal arts type courses, but they didn't really take off. And this is where our program director would get his phone out and say, this is the reason why it didn't take off at the time, because of the internet. So back then, you went to university and really all you learned were facts and knowledge, whereas now you can learn everything, almost everything, online. So it's about finding ways now to make these connections. So you're obviously learning this knowledge to the degree, but you're also finding ways to make connections between these different areas of knowledge. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of the geography of where we're located in London, we are up there at the top of the map there. Just down the road from us, a couple of minutes, one of our very prestigious neighbours is the British Museum, which you may have been to if you visited London. And then also just across the road from us, not marked on the map, we have SOAS, we have Birkbeck, RADA, so some similar other institutions of higher education. So we're in this nice little community, really, nice little higher education quarter, is the way you would call it. And then just south you will find big shopping districts of Oxford Circus and Piccadilly Circus as well. About 10 minutes further east you have St Paul's there, which you also may recognise. We have the Bank of England, so that's the city where lots of trading and banking and finance and consultancy roles might be found. And then again a few other landmarks which you might recognise here with Buckingham Palace and the Houses of Parliament, London Eye, and of course Tower Bridge. So why might you want to consider UCL? As I've said, we're perfectly located in an amazing city. Me and Amanda really enjoyed Hong Kong and really enjoyed the fact that when you go around the corner you find something new and interesting. And London is just like that. It's a vibrant city, really multicultural, really interesting. So many opportunities, whether they be internship opportunities, cultural opportunities, social opportunities as well. There's really something for everyone there. Over the last few years, and even more in recent years, there's been further investment in the campus in terms of the infrastructure. So money's been spent on the laboratories, and money's been spent on the libraries and the museums. And also, more recently, there's been a lot of money put into what's going to be our new campus, which is going to be on the site of the 2012 Olympic Games, the Queen Elizabeth Park. So they've been looking at ways to utilise that space, and UCL are going to launch UCL East, as it's going to be called. This is going to be a very interesting space for us as members of staff and also for the students as well. It's going to offer lots of interesting engineering and creative opportunities, so it won't drag everybody to the east of London, but what it will do is allow students to supplement their learning and do some amazing and interesting things while they're over there. when you do enrol at UCL, you automatically become a member of our student union, which is an amazing thing, and it's the same for most universities. You become part of this student society, and as part of that, you'll be able to enrol in almost anything you can think of in terms of extracurricular activities. So it might be sporting activities, it might be the Beyonce Appreciation Society, which is one that launched quite recently. Kind of, if you think of it, the chances are there already is a society running. And as I've said before, we are in this nice little community, this nice little bubble. So even though we are in this very busy, bustling, vibrant city, we are set back ever so slightly from some of the main streets, and you do have this smaller community feel on the campus particularly. So these are our 8 different faculties that we have at the institution, and they really form the bedrock of a degree program like ours. So you can't really offer a liberal arts program where you say to students, choose the subjects that you want if you don't have all of the subjects to be able to offer them. So all of the different subjects that we offer at UCL are found through these 8 different faculties. There are just 2 really main subject areas that aren't offered by UCL. One of those is theology, and this goes all the way back to that philosopher Bentham that I mentioned before, who wasn't keen on the teaching of religion at the time, and that actually maintains true to now. An interesting point about Bentham, actually, when he died, he said, I want to remain here at UCL, I want to be looking over the university, making sure you stay true to my ideals. And so he now sits in a box right next to the office of our provost and principal. It's a bit weird, it's kind of like having a mummy on campus, but he sits there and he makes sure everyone sort of follows his principles.
I will say he also had his brain desiccated, because he believed that if they ever invented a way of bringing people back to life, he wanted to be part of that. So his brain is in our archive storing. Wow. And it's just waiting for the day that it will be revived. Might be close to them.
So I should say his head isn't on his brain, because that's quite gruesome. That's in a box somewhere else on campus. So this is our programme director, Carl Brumbrich. He's the perfect man to lead a broad and interdisciplinary programme like ours. And just to give you a bit of background about this smiley, happy chappy here we see on the screen. So Carl used to actually be a professional opera singer, so he's classically trained, and for a number of years he was doing that for his career. But he also has degrees in maths, and physics, and philosophy, and has taught in those areas as well. So he's really the perfect figurehead for our degree, and the perfect example of what you can achieve. So who is this degree for? Well, it's obviously for students who are keen on lots of different subject areas, students who are interested in different subjects and perhaps don't know which one they maybe want to focus in on just yet. You can continue doing this broad range of subjects, but you have to be strong across those different subjects at the same time. And the key part about the degree is obviously in the name, it's arts and sciences. So everybody has to have that interest and be strong in both of those areas, because when you graduate you'll be given a degree which is BASc, so it's Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Sciences, which is quite unusual for an undergraduate degree title.
You almost got 2 degrees in one.
You also have to be keen on learning, keen on exploring, seeking out new areas of study. It's a demanding degree, but it's absolutely worth it if you're willing to put that time, put your energy into these areas. And what we're starting to see, particularly with some students, is that they're building up great expertise in certain areas. So a good example of that is one of our students who is very interested in child mental health. This isn't something that's very easy to study perhaps at the degree level. That I don't know of any programs that offer you that. So what she's doing is taking courses from psychology, classes from global health, classes from the life sciences, some sociology classes, and building up expertise in the area that she's particularly interested in. Another great thing about this degree is that our students they're broad, they're interesting. Some of them don't know what they want to do, some of them might not know until the final year, some of them might not know beyond, but this degree keeps the doors open. Our students are interested in so many different things, and a degree like this will keep all of those options open to you. We'll talk a little bit about careers and master's progression and things like that a little bit later on. And just to emphasise that point again, that it is a demanding degree, it's difficult. We normally estimate that it could be 10 to even 20% more difficult than a single honours degree subject. It's not something to be afraid of, and if you love learning and you're able to pick the subjects, one that you like and 2 that you're good at, it's not such a hard thing or a problem if you have to put a little bit more effort in. So the degree itself is split into two distinct halves, really. So we have the pathways and then we have the core. And in the pathways there are 4 different major pathways that you can choose from. So we have cultures, which is more of the arts and humanities subjects. We have societies, which is more of the social sciences. We have health and environment, which is the life sciences. And we have sciences and engineering, which is the hard sciences, maths, and computer studies. And what you do is you choose to major in one of those 4 pathways. And so if you're majoring in cultures or societies, you then minor in health and environment or sciences and engineering, or vice versa. So everybody's doing that combined approach of either arts and sciences or sciences and arts. And then the other half of the degree is what we call the core. And the core is about introducing ideas of interdisciplinarity. It's about finding new and interesting ways to find connections between the disciplines, perhaps even like ways that you hadn't thought were possible before. Also, there's a lot of skills-based courses as well. Amanda's going to talk in a little bit more depth about those. But what we're going to be doing is giving you the skills and the tools to be able to then apply them to your pathway subjects, and then even beyond that, so at postgraduate level, and also a number of skills that will be very valuable to employers that are going to make you more employable from graduation. So just to point out a couple of main distinctions between our programme and some of the other liberal arts programmes that you might have looked at, or you may go on to look at. As I've said, we have these core courses. These are similar to some of the core courses maybe offered by some of the American liberal arts institutions, perhaps in places like Harvard and Yale and Chicago. But what we don't have are sort of general education courses. So many liberal arts colleges in America, you might do a first year of general education, and then only after that you begin to start to follow your major or minor. But for our students, it's just the core courses and then the pathways, which start from the very beginning of the degree. And again, just to reiterate, it's absolutely for students who are interested in that mixture of arts and humanities or social sciences and then sciences as well. So I'm just going to pause from speaking and have a little drink of water and pass it over to Amanda, who's going to talk to you in a little bit more depth about how the degree is structured.
So this gives you really the overview of what you would take each year in the degree. And this little diagram, we've got a booklet, and you'll find it in the booklet, so you can see exactly what you have to do. So in your first year, it moves along like this. Every year at UCL, you have to take 4 units, 4 course units, and they're divided into half-unit modules like that. So in the first year, this approaches, as I say, overall, this is really like your IB, but it's at university level, so it's the next level up. So this approaches to knowledge is rather like the theory of knowledge, which you may or may not enjoy. People have different views of it, but it's something that I think later on you will find that it is in fact very useful to you. It's helping you to think about all the different subjects and disciplines and how they're all divided up into different areas. So you're thinking about it philosophically, really. So there's that course taught by Mr. Gombrich, who Owen introduced you to. This one teaches you how to go about doing research. So that's something that is useful to you either if you're going to go on to be an academic or if you're going into employment. Everyone wants people who can do research. It's a key, very valued commodity nowadays. So you learn about how to ask questions to get the information you want, how to collect the data, how to analyse the data, and then how to present it in a report, and then how to deliver it to whoever's listening to you. So it's a vital skill that, and employers are very interested in that. You might go into an interview for a job and tell them about how much history you've done, and they'll just say yes, 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 but what else can you do? And this is what they're interested in. This course, Quantitative Methods, is about how to simplify complex things by applying mathematical formulae to unusual situations. So someone might ask you a silly question like, how many clowns can you fit into a mini car? And you think, well, what a stupid question is that? You know, you just don't know the answer to that. But in fact, you think, well, you know you can fit more than one in, that's true. You also know you can probably not fit 50 in, that's obviously far too many. And so at least you've got two positives out of that. And then if you work away at the problem, at all the individual aspects of a mini and what a clown might have on, you can then devise a little formula that you might be able to apply to that to actually get an answer to a silly question. So it helps you learn really that nothing is impossible. That someone asks you a question you think, well, I just can't solve that. In fact, if you put your mind to it, you can. Now, this is a very important aspect all the way through the degree is language. It's compulsory. So if you're studying a language now and you really enjoy it, you could carry that on. So if you're very good at French, let's say, you would start your French at advanced level and go even more advanced in each year, possibly with a year abroad in France and Paris. Or you might think, well, I've done French for long enough now, I think I'm going to learn a new language, and I would encourage you to do that because, again, unusual languages are what are going to differentiate you from the next person, because lots of people have French and Spanish, not so many have Mandarin, Japanese or Russian, Arabic, any of those languages. So you can study, we offer, it's French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Arabic, Mandarin, Russian and
Dutch.
Dutch, thank you very much. And so you could start there in absolute beginners and then intermediate and advanced level. And then this side is where you do your subjects. So if you're majoring in sciences and engineering, you might do maths, physics and statistics, let's say something like that, or maths, physics and engineering. And then your minor would be in whatever subject, so you might like politics, so perhaps you're taking a politics module, or you might like literature, so you take English literature. Then in your second year, we have more core courses. So this is object-based learning, where you're given an object from a museum, and you have to sort of interrogate that object, see where it was from, and who used to own it, what its purpose was, and then you work in teams and you produce a digital online exhibition of all your objects, as if you're presenting an exhibition, a museum exhibition. It's a great course, that. This is a follow-on from this, so if you like computer programming, this introduces you to Python programming. And again, it's using it to help solve and analyse data, solve problems. And this is another sort of philosophical course, if you like philosophy. It's about the values of things and ways of thinking and learning. Language, this is a choice, you get a choice of subjects here, interdisciplinary work, and then you carry on with your majors. So let's say you did your maths, physics and engineering, and perhaps that's the first engineering course you've ever done. You think, oh, well, I definitely want to carry on with that, so you go on to the next level of engineering, and perhaps you think, I really enjoyed my physics, but I'm a bit fed up with maths now, so I think I'm just going to do 2 physics courses here. So, and in fact you could do 4 majors if you wanted to. And really you could do 3, you could perhaps do physics, some physics course, astrophysics, quantum physics, and then your engineering course, and then 1 minor, so you might carry on with that politics module or the next level of literature. Or you might really enjoy your literature and think, no, I'm going to do literature and I'm perhaps going to do a bit of history associated with that, so I'll do 2 minors and 3 majors, so you could just do 2 physics and an engineering. Then in this year, that's the year you go abroad. So if you're going to do the year abroad, you go abroad in your 3rd year. But the other thing we give you here is an internship. So you get a 6 to 8 week work placement in London. And that's where you would practice. You go in and work with a company. Perhaps you fancy doing law, but you're not sure what a career in law involves. You could go and work in a solicitor's office or in some barristers' chambers, helping out, seeing how barristers work, and you might think, gosh, this looks good, I'd really like to go into this. Or you may hate it and think, I never want to go into another barrister's office again. Whatever your reaction, you've learnt something from it, rather than waiting till you get here and embarking on your career in law and suddenly finding out you thought you wanted to do it, but in fact you don't like it at all. Then your final year, this is another core course. This is the culmination really of all your studies, because there you get the chance, you set the topic for that dissertation, and you bring together all these courses that you did up here in some unusual theme, which will occur to you by the time you get there. You might think now, well, I can't imagine what that would be. By the time you get there, you'll know what it is, and you get a supervisor. If you're doing more than one subject in that discipline, you get 2 supervisors. And we've had some amazingly interesting combinations like neuroscience and literature, you know, about the effect of people's state of mind when they've written a piece of poetry, all sorts of investigations into scientific things or geographical things. It's whatever is your major and minor. Language again, and then more combinations here. So by this stage, I think you mostly do know what you want to do, and we're quite, we allow you to take really whatever. You could have 2 majors and 2 minors, or 3 majors and 1 minor. So this just clarifies those pathways again. So if you're a cultures major, you get a choice. You have to choose 3 modules out of that list. So something like art history is a fabulous course to take at London, because of course you've got all the art galleries, the National Gallery, Courtauld Institute. You might be you might like fine art and design, or you might like English. Film is a big, we have lots of film courses, history. Or perhaps you're a person that's more interested in something like international relations and politics. Perhaps that's more your thing. You would major in societies, philosophy, political economy and sociology. The health and environment pathway is the life sciences. That's biology, biochemistry, biomedicine. So this year we've had 2 people who've gone on to be trained to be doctors, because they did. You have to make sure you've done enough life sciences in your major, and then one has gone on to the Imperial School of Medicine and the other one to Nottingham School of Medicine. And then this is if you want to be, this is if you're a mathematician, if you like maths, physics, engineering, chemistry, or computer science, computer programming. That's where you'd major in that field. Now, I just wanted to mention some of these core courses. These are the things that employers are really interested in. So this quantitative methods course that was the clowns in the mini, this is taught by a mathematician called Dr. Hannah Fry, and she has recently written a book called The Mathematics of Love. And what she did was analyse, she took the London population and analysed where people were from, what their age groups were, what their interests were, and she derived a formula for finding the likelihood of you meeting your ideal partner when you go to London, so based on all this data that she's collected. And so she's whittled it down to a formula, and she's also analysed how long the relationship might last based on various conditions. But students also do their own projects. So one student looked at the best place in London to do your own independent work if you go off with your laptop, based on Wi-Fi strength, Wi-Fi hotspots, proximity of coffee houses and bathroom facilities. And so she actually managed in the end to identify where the best place might be to do your own independent study using your laptop. So it's a very interesting course. This is the second level core course. That was that objects one I mentioned. You might be given a huge object like this, or you might even be given a little piece of wood, you know, and you think, well, I'm not interested in this, you know. But actually, you learn to find out where it's come from, and where it was located, who it used to belong to, and you do that. You produce that museum exhibition, virtual exhibition at the end of that. This is one of our interdisciplinary electives. So if you perhaps might be interested in, you think you might like architecture, to go on to be an architect, you can go on. One of our students has gone on to do, or in fact 2 of them have done MScs in architecture, urban planning. If you want to know a bit more about that, this is about the effect of, I mean, Hong Kong is a fantastic subject for something like this. It's the effect of buildings upon the society, how many green spaces you have, how the buildings affect the transport and communications in a city, what are the problems of different types of urban conurbations, what is the importance of space to people. So there's that one, or perhaps you might like this, energy systems, which looks at the different kinds of energy consumption, what the future is going to be of fuel consumption and pollution, what are the safest forms of energy that we need to invent, and future of solar power, wind energy. You cover all of those things in that. So that just gives you an overview of some of the courses. This was one of our ex-students, she was at Shatin, so I asked her just to give us a quote about what she felt about the degree, but she sort of wrote this essay, so I didn't like to say, well, you know, we won't use all of that. But in fact, when I read it, I thought, well, it really spells out what our students think about the degree. She says, it gave me the best 3 years of undergraduate experience, both academically and socially. The flexibility that the course offers allowed me to discover the modules I enjoyed. And that's the point, you see, the fact that you're picking your own modules means you're picking things that you're good at, which means the likelihood of you doing well is very high, and that is why our students have all done so well, because they've chosen the subjects that they're good at. It goes without saying that this highly challenging and innovative course attracts the brightest individuals. You're going to meet people who are just like yourselves, who are interested in lots of different things. So there's a very good community spirit. In the first year, students all get together, they get to know each other, and in the second and third year, most BAScers, as we call them, live together. You know, they get flats outside of London and live together while they're finishing their studies. So Sahar is now, she says, 4 years on, I'll be enrolling in Environmental Technology Masters at Imperial College London. Now, when Sahar started in her first year, she had no idea that she was going to be interested in environmental sustainability and issues around that. But through the course of her subjects, she found that was really what made her tick, and so she's ended up in the right place rather than in the wrong place, which can happen. So, Owen, do you want to mention a bit more about that? No, we've got 10 minutes.
So we're always looking for ways to add value to degrees, and study abroad is another way of doing that, another way of making you even more employable and even more attractive to future employers. And that's something that they like to see. They like to see students who have an international outlook, who have experience of living and studying in different parts of the world. Obviously, if you decide to come to London, that is in itself a study abroad experience, so you would tick that box. So it's not a compulsory part of the degree, but it's something that we still recommend. Lots of our international students still do take up the opportunity, because what it will mean is that when they graduate, they'll have a degree certificate from UCL, and then they'll also have a transcript from another institution. And I'll just add on some of the different opportunities that we have here. So we have a really diverse and interesting range of options available. One of the main reasons we can offer such a wide range of different institutions is because of the language element of the degree. And in many examples, still going through, and in many examples we have students who are following their courses in those countries in the language of that country. So we have students at the moment who are studying their academic courses in Spanish in Chile. We have students in France who are studying in Paris, also in French.
Montreal.
And yeah, we have students also in Montreal, right across the board really. But we do have also teaching available in English in some parts of the world. So don't be afraid and don't think, oh, if I'm starting a new language, perhaps I can't go abroad. There are still lots of options in English-speaking parts of the world. University of California, as you might imagine, is very popular in the States as well. But really we have something for everyone there. Here's a nice little quote from one of our students who was in Sciences Po in Paris last year. She's a nice example of students that help to find even further direction when they're studying abroad. It gives them a year to almost step back, reflect on what they've done, and think a little bit more about what they want to do in future. So this student, Avi, wasn't exactly sure what she wanted to do. She focused in on some of the subjects that she'd started at UCL and sort of garnered this additional interest and was then hired as a research assistant, and then she had a plan for her future. She's now applying for a master's over there in Paris as well. As Amanda mentioned, we also offer the internship, which is another really important part of our program, very important to us, and we think it adds great value to the degree and helps our students go on to progress to great things afterwards. So this happens normally in the second year, in the summer holidays. I think as Amanda said, 6 to 8 weeks typically. Sometimes they're a bit longer. And what we have on the program is a member of our team, she's from the career service but works specifically with our program, so she's working full-time with the students from the BASc. She's looking for opportunities, she's sourcing them, she's speaking to businesses and organisations, and she's getting these internships which are then promoted only to students on our degree program. So she's not sharing them with other students from other degrees, it's just for our students specifically. She's also working very closely with our students, speaking to them, finding out other things that they're interested in to find more and interesting opportunities. And if you're wanting to pursue something off your own bat, then she will help you go through the application process, she'll help you tailor your CV, there'll be opportunities for having interview practice and those sorts of things, really to make sure that you can obtain the position which is perfect for you at that time.
You could come back to Hong Kong if there was a job here that you knew you could get, that would be fine. But in a way you might as well take the opportunity to get a job in London while you're doing this.
Because that would be considered international work experience.
Yeah.
And so here's a few examples of some of the different things that our students have gone on to do. So it reflects the broadness of the students, it reflects how we have students interested in so many different things, and there are some really big and prominent organisations on here. I'm sure you recognise many of the names, and we're very proud of the students that they've been able to go out and achieve these internships. So we have the likes of Deloitte and Accenture, the student who did their internship in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Singapore. We've got 2 students who've been at Google, which is a very impressive thing to have achieved. Because of course they still have to go through the application process, which can be very competitive, particularly at places like Google. And we feel it's the core courses and the ethos of the course that's really helping to set these students apart when it comes to making these applications. And so from internships we go to careers. What it's also good to say here actually is that a number of our students who did internships have been offered graduate positions on the back of it. So some of them have already been offered graduate jobs before they've even finished their degree. So maybe at the end of the summer, after their second year, they know that whatever happens in the final year, they're going to have this position because they've impressed the organisation so much. And what we're seeing with our conversations with employers these days, and from these statistics that I've just put up, is that employers less and less are looking at the subject that you take. They're more interested in the skills that you have. Some organisations don't even look at the subjects that you've taken. All they want to see is that you have a good degree from a good institution, and then it's the thing that they're interested in more is this thing called learning agility. It's your flexibility. It's how you can join the team, how you can be moulded to fit their organisation, how you can contribute. And so it's these soft skills that are particularly prominent from the core which will help you in this way. Also important to state really that these days very few people are going to be doing one thing for their whole career. Perhaps that was the case for maybe our grandparents' generation, where they left school and they went into work and they did the whole thing up until they retired. But now people are going to be doing so many different things. So having a broad degree where you're going to have multiple perspectives is going to be a great value if you want to jump between different career opportunities. And again, here's a few examples of the types of things that our students have been going on to do. And we've got a few more specific examples, which we'll just quickly round up one or two of, and then we're running out of time.
Yeah. So Nina, she was on the societies pathway. She liked history, I think was her main thing, and she did an internship with a think tank, which is a place where you discuss what's going to happen in the future, perhaps in politics or economics. You look at current trends and say, and make predictions, you know, in 10 years' time we need to be getting ready for this. So her internship was a think tank, and on the back of that she now works for the UK government in the Treasury, which is the finance department that handles all the taxation income. So very prestigious job. Okay, she'd done history, there would have been lots of people who'd applied for that job with politics, economics, but she had that edge because she got that experience of having already thought through the type of things that if you work for the government, that's the way your mind needs to work. Now, Dom Dieter, he was our sort of city, he's our banker. He's representative of the banking group because we have, there's someone in American Express, Dominic works for Citibank, Goldman Sachs investment banking, global investment banking in London's financial sector. So Dominic's starting salary was £40,000, you know, even before he'd done anything for the company. Then we have Meki, who was on Sciences and Engineering.
Yeah, so just to point out, Meki was one of our students who enrolled on the 4-year BAsc study abroad. Meki spent the 3rd year studying at the University of California in Santa Barbara, and she's also a good example of students that decide to specialise even more as they go through the degree. So she started off the degree studying a wider range of courses, but when she got to the 2nd year, she realised that physics was really her thing. And what she did, particularly while she was in Santa Barbara, was to hone in and take almost predominantly all the courses from physics. This gave her lots of prerequisites to get onto the highest level of physics courses in the final year, and now she's just been accepted onto a theoretical physics course at King's College London.
An MSc. But for her internship, do you want to put a name on?
Oh yes.
For her internship, she worked on a company that's launching a satellite into space. And so this internship, it involved knowledge of astrophysics, technology, business development, and this satellite's called Twinkle. It's going to go up in the next year. And they were so impressed with Meki that they've offered her a job working on that. Well, of course, that's such an opportunity. She'd be mad to turn that down. So she's deferred her MSc in theoretical physics, and she's now going to work on this space satellite. Yeah. And finally, Lena.
Yeah, finally, Lena. She's another student that studied abroad. She's a good example of what you can achieve in terms of the language. So Lena started Spanish in the 1st year, pretty much as a beginner. She's worked hard on it for the first two years, and then she went to the University of Seville for her year abroad. And by the end of her year abroad in Spain, she was writing reports in Spanish, 25-page reports, and was pretty much fluent by the end of that year, which is an incredible achievement for a beginner. So it just shows what's possible on not a language degree, but with a degree that allows you to spend some time learning languages, have that year abroad, and again, that's something that's very, very attractive to employers.
And she's now going to Oxford to do a Masters in Environmental Management. So slightly overrun there.
Has any of you got lessons? Maybe if we could just round,
Yeah, well, this was really the last season.
Yes,
just show the entry requirements. That's probably quite good for you to see and to be on the screen there. So it's 39 points with a score of 19 with 3 higher level subjects. There is some variation between the different pathways, so you have to achieve certain subject combinations depending on the major pathway that you want to hone in on, and we can circulate the more specific requirements into the course as well.
But they're obviously, it's sort of that you need higher level, high grade and higher level maths if you're going to do sciences and engineering, high grade in either biology or chemistry if you're going to do the health and environment. Cultures and Societies entry is the same as long as you've got high grades in the arts and humanities. But for all of them, you must also have the combination with the science or art. We've got a sheet for you if you want to see that.
Did anyone have any
Yeah,
questions at this stage?
Any tips for, I suppose, if you're interested in a course like this, for your personal statement? Is it just showing a passion for it?
Well,
All your subjects you do and
yeah,
the flexibility?
it's a good question about the personal statement, because we find it's very difficult, nigh on impossible, to write about a degree like ours, and if you're perhaps also applying for a single honours subject or a joint honours, to write about both those things at the same time. So what we say to students is actually we don't really look at the personal statement. We will glance at it and have a read of it, but that won't affect our decision-making process. So if you're applying for, say, economics somewhere else, it's absolutely fine to write about economics. What we then do is it's actually organised by our admissions office, and they will send out a questionnaire which is much more tailored to our thinking, to find out much more about the student's specific interests. So yeah, we don't worry too much about the personal statement. It's the questionnaire
To be honest,
that
we don't
follows.
look at it really. We don't look at it. So we expect you to write on the degree that you're applying for, unless you're applying for all liberal arts degrees. Then